I never thought I'd become the villain in my sister's story, but sometimes justice wears the face of betrayal. The irony wasn't lost on me as I watched my phone light up with another Etsy notification. Another sale. Another 5-star review. Another customer who'd abandoned my sister's shop for mine. I should have felt guilty, after all, Melanie was family. But as I scrolled through the glowing feedback on my handcrafted jewelry collection, all I felt was vindication. Sweet, hard-earned vindication after months of being silently robbed of my creativity, one design at a time. 6 months earlier, I couldn't have imagined where we'd end up. Melanie and I had always been close, the kind of sisters who finished each other's sentences and shared everything from clothes to secrets. When I lost my marketing job during the pandemic, she was the first person at my door with wine and reassurance. "This could be your chance, Ava," she'd said, lounging on my couch as I scrolled through job listings. "Remember those amazing statement earrings you made for my birthday? People would pay good money for those." The idea took root. I'd always loved making jewelry. Transforming raw materials into wearable art had been my escape since college. With Melanie's encouragement, I started sketching designs, sourcing materials, and creating a business plan for an Etsy shop. Each night after sending out resumes, I'd work on my collection, photographing prototypes and sharing my progress with Melanie over our weekly sister dinners. "These are incredible," she'd gush, holding my latest creation to the light, a pair of asymmetrical copper earrings with delicate turquoise inlays. "How do you even come up with these concepts?" I'd blush with pride, explaining my inspiration process, the technical challenges, where I sourced my materials. I showed her my design journal, full of sketches and notes about future collections. She seemed genuinely interested, asking questions about pricing strategies and production timelines. "I'm thinking of launching next month," I told her over Thai food in early September. "Just in time for the holiday shopping season." "That's perfect timing," she agreed, helping herself to more pad Thai. "You could even do some special holiday designs." "Speaking of which, how's the job search going?" I sighed. 3 interviews this week, all ending with "we'll call you." Her face softened with sympathy. "Well, maybe this Etsy thing will take off and you won't need those corporate jerks anyway." That support meant everything during those uncertain weeks. While waiting for responses from potential employers, I threw myself into preparing for my shop launch, creating inventory, perfecting product photos, and researching SEO strategies for Etsy. I'd even come up with a name I loved, Mooncopper Studio, inspired by my preference for working late into the night and my signature metal of choice. The day before my planned launch, I received an unexpected text from Melanie. "Need to raincheck tomorrow's dinner. Got swamped with work stuff. Good luck with the launch." I was disappointed but understood. As a project manager for a tech startup, Melanie often had unpredictable hours. I responded with a heart emoji and continued packaging my initial inventory, imagining the satisfaction of making my first sale. The launch went better than I'd expected. Within the first week, I'd made 8 sales and received glowing reviews. The validation was intoxicating. Strangers were willing to pay for something I'd created with my own hands. For the first time since losing my job, I felt a sense of purpose and possibility. Caught up in the excitement of my new venture, I didn't immediately notice that Melanie had become increasingly difficult to reach. Our weekly dinners became monthly, then sporadic. When we did connect, she seemed distracted, checking her phone constantly and asking fewer questions about my growing business. Everything okay with you? I finally asked during a rushed coffee meetup in November. Just busy, she said, not quite meeting my eyes. End-of-year deadlines are brutal. Then, changing the subject, how's the Etsy shop going? Still making those geometric earrings? Better than expected, I replied, brightening. I'm actually expanding into pendants and cuffs using the same design language. Want to see the prototypes? Maybe next time, she said, checking her watch. I should get back to the office. As the holiday season approached, my sales steadily increased. I was pulling in enough to cover my rent and utilities, not enough to abandon the job search entirely, but enough to ease the financial pressure. I'd developed a small but loyal customer base who appreciated my distinctive style, modern, geometric copper pieces with subtle semi-precious stone accents. Then came the message that changed everything. It arrived via Etsy from a customer named Leah. Hi there. I just wanted to say I'm loving the earrings I bought from you last week. They're even more beautiful in person than in the photos. Quick question though, I noticed very similar designs in another shop, Starlight Designs. Are you affiliated with them? Their pieces look almost identical but cost more. My stomach dropped. I wasn't affiliated with any other shop. I quickly searched for Starlight Designs on Etsy and felt the blood drain from my face as their page loaded. There they were, my designs. My concepts. My creative vision, reproduced with minor variations. Copper geometric earrings with turquoise accents. Minimalist pendants with the distinctive asymmetrical elements I'd spent months perfecting. Even the product descriptions echoed mine, though the prices were indeed higher. With trembling hands, I clicked on the About section, expecting to find some anonymous copycat halfway across the country. Instead, I found myself staring at my sister's face. Melanie's smiling profile photo looked back at me beneath a bio that described her as a self-taught jewelry artist inspired by architectural forms and natural elements. The shop had launched just 2 weeks after mine, with an inventory that shadowed my own product releases with eerie precision. I felt physically ill. Every design she was selling represented hours of my work. My creativity, my vision, all the concepts I'd eagerly shared during our dinners, all the prototypes I'd shown her in my apartment, all the techniques I'd described in detail. She hadn't just stolen my ideas, she'd stolen the future I was trying to build for myself. My first instinct was confrontation. I drafted a dozen angry messages, each more accusatory than the last. I contemplated calling her, imagining the satisfaction of demanding an explanation. But something held me back, a strange, cold clarity that cut through the emotion. Direct confrontation would just give her warning. She'd deny it, or worse, she'd spin the story to make herself the victim somehow. Melanie had always been skilled at that particular maneuver, even in childhood. No. This required a different approach. That night, I sat at my workbench until dawn, fueled by Betrayal and 4 cups of extremely black coffee. I reviewed every piece in my existing collection and in Melanie's shop, identifying the subtle signature elements she'd copied. Then I began sketching new designs, pieces that evolved my aesthetic in ways she couldn't anticipate. Melanie thought she could build a business by following my creative lead. I'd make sure that lead took a sharp, unexpected turn over the next week. I poured every waking hour into creating an expanded collection that pushed my style forward while remaining true to my artistic vision. I experimented with mixed metals, introducing silver and brass elements that complemented the copper foundation. I incorporated more complex stone arrangements and developed a technique for creating textured surfaces that would be difficult to reproduce without specialized tools and skills. Most importantly, I invested in professional product photography and completely overhauled my shop's branding. I created cohesive packaging with a distinctive copper moon logo, included handwritten thank you notes with every order, and added small surprise gifts, tiny copper studs or adjustable rings, to delight customers. While Melanie was selling copies of my original designs, I would be delivering an elevated experience that she couldn't match without significant investment and expertise. The final piece of my strategy involved pricing. I noticed that Melanie had positioned her pieces as premium, with prices about 30% higher than mine for essentially the same designs. Rather than dropping my prices to undercut her, I maintained my mid-range pricing while dramatically improving quality and presentation. The message was clear: better value, better craftsmanship, better experience, all at a more accessible price point. I relaunched my expanded collection just before Thanksgiving, perfectly timed for Black Friday and the holiday shopping season. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Sales tripled in the first week. Reviews poured in, praising not just the designs but the presentation, the personal touches, the overall experience. Meanwhile, I maintained radio silence with Melanie. I didn't confront her about the copying. I didn't mention my relaunch. I didn't respond to her increasingly infrequent texts about getting together. I simply focused on executing my plan with meticulous attention to detail. By mid-December, something unexpected happened. One of my pieces, a striking asymmetrical copper cuff with a crescent moon cutout and small turquoise inlay, was featured on Etsy's front page. The exposure sent my shop visits skyrocketing, and for 3 days straight, I could barely keep up with orders. It was during this whirlwind that I received the first direct message from one of Melanie's customers. "Hi there. I originally purchased a similar bracelet from Starlight Designs, but the quality was disappointing. The copper tarnished immediately and one of the stones fell out after just one wearing. I found your shop through a recommendation and was struck by how similar yet superior your work seems to be. Would you be able to create something like the piece I originally purchased but with your attention to quality?" I responded carefully, never mentioning Starlight or Melanie, simply offering to create a custom piece based on the customer's preferences. They sent me photos of the piece they'd purchased, one of my original designs, poorly executed with cheaper materials. This became a pattern. Throughout December and into January, I received a steady stream of customers who had either returned items to Starlight or were disappointed with their purchases. I never disparaged Melanie's shop. I didn't need to. The quality spoke for itself. By January, my shop was generating enough income for me to decline a job offer that came through, an entry-level marketing position that would have required a soul-crushing commute. Instead, I invested in better tools and began exploring wholesale opportunities with several boutiques in Chicago and Minneapolis. Didn't hear directly from Melanie until Valentine's Day. The text arrived while I was packaging a large order for a new wholesale client. "Hey stranger. Been forever. Can we talk? Coffee tomorrow?" I stared at the message for a long time before responding, "Sure. The usual place at 10? The coffee shop was busy when I arrived, but I spotted Melanie immediately. She looked tired, with dark circles under her eyes that her concealer couldn't quite hide. She'd lost weight too, her cheekbones more pronounced than I remembered. "Thanks for coming," she said as I sat down, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. "It's been too long." "It has," I agreed, keeping my voice neutral. How have you been? She hesitated, cupping her hands around her mug. Actually, not great. That's kind of why I wanted to talk. I waited, saying nothing. I'm guessing you know about my Etsy shop, she finally said, looking up to gauge my reaction. I maintained a carefully blank expression. Starlight Designs, right? I've seen it. She flinched slightly at my tone. I should have told you. I saw how well you were doing, and I thought I could do that too. You made it look so easy. The audacity of her statement nearly took my breath away. Easy? Well, not easy exactly, she backpedaled. But possible. Achievable. I've been feeling stuck at my job, watching you create this whole new career for yourself. The pieces you showed me were so beautiful, and the techniques seemed straightforward enough, so you decided to copy them, I finished for her. Without asking. Without mentioning it. While ghosting me for months. She had the grace to look ashamed. I know how it looks. I convinced myself it wasn't really copying, more like being inspired by your aesthetic. But then I saw your new collection in November, and I realized how far ahead of me you really are. I can't keep up, Ava. The quality issues alone are killing my shop. I've had so many returns and negative reviews lately. I sipped my coffee, letting the silence stretch between us. Part of me, the part that remembered building blanket forts and sharing ice cream cones and crying on each other's shoulders through breakups, wanted to offer comfort. But the larger part remembered the sick feeling of seeing my designs stolen, my creativity exploited by the person I trusted most. What exactly do you want from me, Melanie? She looked down at her hands. I'm closing the shop. It was a mistake, and I'm sorry. Really sorry. I miss my sister. I miss our dinners and talks. I miss us. I studied her face, searching for the manipulation or calculation I'd expected to find. Instead, I saw genuine regret mixed with something else, admiration, perhaps. Your new work is incredible, she continued. That moon cuff design? Absolutely stunning. I couldn't come close to creating something like that, even if I tried. You have a real gift, Ava. The compliment should have felt satisfying, but instead, it just made me sad. You know what hurts the most? Not that you copied my designs, though that was pretty terrible. It's that you didn't believe enough in your own creativity to develop something original. You've always been creative in your own way, Mel. She blinked rapidly, fighting tears. I was jealous. You lost your job but somehow created this amazing new path for yourself. Meanwhile, I'm successful on paper, good title, decent salary, but completely unfulfilled. I thought I could shortcut my way to what you have. I felt the hard shell of my anger beginning to crack. There are no shortcuts in creative work. Every design represents hours of experimentation, failure, and refinement. That's why copying hurts so much. It devalues all that invisible labor. I know that now, she said quietly. And I'm closing the shop this week. I've already refunded my remaining orders. We sat in silence for a moment, the ambient noise of the coffee shop filling the space between us. I don't expect you to forgive me right away, Melanie finally said. But I hope eventually we can find our way back to being sisters again. I miss you. I thought about the last few months, the betrayal, the anger, the sweet satisfaction of success, but also the hollowness of not having my sister to share it with. The victory had tasted less sweet without someone to celebrate it with me. "It's going to take time," I said honestly. "But I miss you too." As we left the coffee shop, tentatively planning to meet for dinner the following week, I realized something important. In my quest for revenge, I'd actually discovered my true potential as an artist and entrepreneur. Pushed by betrayal, I'd created work I might never have attempted otherwise. I'd found confidence and clarity about my creative vision. The irony was almost poetic. Melanie's attempt to steal my success had inadvertently pushed me to exceed even my own expectations. 3 months later, my rebranded shop, now called Lunar Forge Studio, hit a milestone: 1,000 sales and an invitation to showcase my work at a prestigious craft fair in New York. Melanie was back in my life, cautiously rebuilding our relationship through honest conversations and genuine support. She'd started seeing a career counselor to explore her own creative interests, discovering a passion for textile design that had nothing to do with jewelry. The morning of my flight to New York, I received a package from her, a hand-woven wall hanging in shades of copper and turquoise, with a note that read, "Created by Melanie Harrison, inspired by but not copying my incredibly talented sister. So proud of you. Love, Mel." I hung it in my booth at the craft fair, where it perfectly complemented my latest collection. When potential wholesale buyers asked about it, I proudly told them it was created by an emerging textile artist whose work complemented mine. Several requested her contact information. That night, I called Melanie from my hotel room. "Your wall hanging was a hit," I told her. "3 boutique owners want to see more of your work." Her shocked silence, followed by tearful gratitude, felt like the closing of a circle. We had both found our own creative paths, different but complementary. The betrayal that had nearly destroyed our relationship had ultimately transformed both of us. Sometimes, I think about that customer message that revealed Melanie's shop to me. Without that moment of painful clarity, I might never have pushed myself beyond my comfort zone. I might never have discovered what I was truly capable of creating. I never thought I'd be grateful for betrayal, but life has a way of transforming even our darkest moments into unexpected opportunities for growth. The revenge I sought turned out to be the best thing that could have happened, not because it hurt my sister, but because it forced both of us to become better versions of ourselves. As I packed my remaining inventory after the successful craft fair, I thought about the journey of the past year, from unemployed and uncertain to successful business owner with a renewed relationship with my sister. The road had been painful, complicated, and messy, but I wouldn't change a single step. Sometimes the designs we steal, and the ones stolen from us, lead us exactly where we need to go. The end.